Welcome to the first series of the evening. We're on Frozen Temple, spawning to the bottom right hand side. In teal is our Terran player Grizzly. And to the top left, in purple, our Zerg player Miezekotze, who is, a little bit unfortunately for Grizzly, the clear favorite in this matchup, I have to admit, since Grizzly, MMR-wise, is the weakest player right now, but she's getting a lot of coaching sessions from our top player in the league at the moment, which is Miyako. So I think we can expect great things out of Grizzly in the near future, or even in this series. So let's have a good look at what Grizzly is up to against her Zerg opponent. Miezekotze goes for the hatch first, as she was expected to do, then going into the extractor, and afterwards she's going to build a pool to be able to get out some links, and maybe even more important, the queen, that will allow her to spawn some lava and just get more lava out of her hatchery. And the lava is something she's going to need in order to produce units, or actually almost everything that Zerg produces that is not a building. So there's the spawning pool over here. We have the barracks at the front, so that we will be able to make a clear, complete wall off with another depot over here. And then after the barracks that produces a Reaper at the moment, she goes into the command center right afterwards. So one Rex expand, and then a barracks right afterwards, so that she will be able to just produce a few more units, just in case that her opponent might overwhelm her with early units in the early game. So she wants to have something in order to be able to defend some kind of early pushes. So that's why she now builds a reactor onto that barracks, so that in a moment she will be able to produce 2 Marines out of this barracks, and then even more Marines out of this barracks as well. So we're probably going to see some sort of bioplay. Another refinery being taken, so that she will be able to produce more gas, because she's going to need it after this factory is finished. She wants to have enough gas left in order to produce a starport, and mining from one gas won't just cut it. Especially if you also want to produce some more units out of this, and other tech additions as well. So that's why she's already taking that second refinery. In the meantime, we have Miezekotze not opting to go for a third base, it seems. Instead, she sends some links across the map in order to pressure her opponent for a little bit. Reaper has just moved inside the base, seen what's going on, but has missed. Oh, the links, unfortunately, and the depot is even lowered, so Grizzly was not really paying attention at that moment. All the links get inside, but fortunately for her, or not fortunately for her, she just manages to surround skillfully all of these links, not taking too much damage, still losing 6 workers to it, which is actually a very great success in the early game already for Miezekotze here. So, and behind this she can easily take her own hatchery. But of course she's already sacrificed a lot of lava and resources into these first early links, but they managed to do quite some damage. Maybe not the amount of damage she was really looking for. Like I said before, it was good play by Grizzly here to be able to almost get the full surround on the links. Otherwise they would have done considerably more damage, maybe even game ending at that point. But of course, it's still something that throws her behind. 33 drones for Miezekotze, with only 21 now for Grizzly. The mules will help her out for now, as we can see her income only slightly behind, but still by a great margin. So 14 more links incoming for Miezekotze over here. It seems as if she might want to get aggressive once more, maybe even with the help of some banelings, but she doesn't have a baneling nest yet, so it seems to be only for scouting measures or defensive measures as well. So if her opponent just decides to move across the map, her ling over here is going to spot it. This ling over here is going to spot another base that if Grizzly tries to take one, and she even has a Zergling over here and over here to scout the ground path that leads towards her base, and she also will have a good vision if her opponent tries to drop her in some way. She has an overlord over here, she has an overlord ready over here. There are some minor regions where Grizzly might sneak through, but of course it's also a bit lucky if she really does. So Miezekotze really trying to get the best out of her vision that's possible, and now even letting the Lynx patrol to get even more vision. So very nicely done by her, so she really will see Grizzly coming her way once she decides to walk across the map. In the meantime, Lair is finished. We're getting an evolution chamber in the mainling nest because she's already realized that her opponent is going for mostly bio units. So we want to have some explosive power against the bio units, which are the mainlings. And here are just the first two. This is just a precautious measure, and by now we'll see whether this Ling is doing its duty. And unfortunately it's not, but these Medivacs are probably going to fly by that Overlord, and now Miezekotze knows. If she's just paying attention towards the map, which it seems she's just not. So Grizzly will manage to get inside the main base for now. Still no army movement by Miezekotze here, now she realizes. Since she's going to get a full warning. Lynx just streaming in one by one, which is actually not the best trade for Miezekotze here, because the Marines just stutter stepping backwards and getting a lot more damage done. Unfortunately, Grizzly not really paying attention, could have loaded her Marines up, but actually just taking the hits, but still 3 Marines left getting healed. I actually think she wouldn't really have needed to load that up. I think she could have still managed to get even more damage done, but maybe she was a bit uncertain over here, trying to take on another queen, but she's not gonna get it. And now the Lynx are here in order. Actually, that was a really good position. I don't really know why she just loaded up. Maybe she thought that with that one Ling incoming, more were just on the way, so she just wanted to get out while she could. But yeah, it was a bit strange. I mean, that was a really good position. She was already dealing a lot of damage, could have taken out some more drones. Well, don't really know what she was up to at that point. But then again, it's always easy to say that when you're only the observer and not under the stress as a player. So in the meantime, just Miezekotze trying to spread out her creep. She still kind of knows that her opponent has not opted for another base yet. I mean, she could have taken that base just very sneakily, or maybe even that down here by just moving across. But yeah, there's the Reaper now clearing the Zergling over here, and maybe Grizzly wants to take another base over here. But it seems as if this Reaper was just there for scouting purposes, just accidentally coming across this Zergling over there, so does not really look as if Grizzly really wants to take another base very soon, but never mind, there it is, the third base over here, and there she flies it down after clearing that third base position, while also just trying to do another drop or another push with the Tankivex. Yeah, doesn't want to drop these units from Medivac over here. She wants to have them down below on the ground so that they will already start attacking. And this is actually quite an impressive push. I mean, how many Tankivecs do we have? There's 1, 2, 3, I think it's 4 Tankivecs over here, but Miezekotze is already ready with most of her units. She's already going into a Spire Tech, hasn't completed it yet, so it will take some time before Mutalisks will come in. And Grizzly actually really has to push right now. I mean, she's now loading up everything, probably just trying to maybe mind game her opponent by a little bit. I mean, she's realized that her opponent has seen her push coming through the middle with the help of that creep, so she just wants to change the route of her push with just air, or probably just wants to drop right inside the natural base, but Miezekotze just sees everything, so she will be ready, and this will actually be even more problematic to deploy these units once all of these units have already arrived. And now Mutalisks are already out, and they will probably even just shoot down these Medivacs if Grizzly isn't careful enough. Yeah, there, okay, finally the siege tanks goes down, but just in front of all the other units, not in the back. So Miezekotze has no problem taking them down whatsoever, and now the rest of Grizzly's army actually just dies in an instant. Miezekotze could easily just take out all of the Medivacs if she cared to do so, and then the Mutalisks come back. But fortunately for Grizzly, the Medivacs already have their boost available again, so she can just fly away with most of the Medivacs, losing one in the process. But yeah, that push actually, unfortunately for Grizzly, really did nothing. And now Miezekotze is ahead in supply by 70. So, I mean, what can we say? This game is actually mostly over already. I'm sorry to say that, but yeah, there's not really much that she can do now. She even has to retreat back to her natural base probably, because Miezekotze is just flying in. There's one turret over here, but she's not paying attention. Unfortunately, not really counter repairing. Now a lot of SCVs are already dying to the Mutalisk harassment, and at the meantime, Miezekotze just streaming in with more units. Grizzly realizes it's over, GG's out, and Miezekotze takes the first game. It's the second game of the series. We're on Apotheosis, spawning to the bottom right in teal. We have our Terran player Grizzly. And it's Miezekotze to the bottom left. The top left. I'm sorry, it's not the bottom left. It's top of the map! And left as well. So... yeah, Miezekotze just easily destroyed her opponent in the first game. Grizzly tried to push out with her Marines and Medevacs, was a little bit late with the timing there, and also a little bit indecisive where and when to go where. So it didn't really work out the way she planned, and a lot of her aggressive power was just lost when she loaded in all of her units. So let's see what she's up to this time around. Mostly just the standard opening from both players. We've already saw in the first game. So Miezekotze just going for the hatch first, into extractor, into pool. It's mostly the standard opening for Zerg. As I said before, it's quite greedy, and if a Terran player tried to punish it with an early proxy build, proxy builds are normally always early. So if you have proxy builds like proxy 3-Rex Reaper, or even an old kind of proxy 2-Rex Bunker Rush, it might be problematic for a Zerg player to hold it, since the pool is so late and your first units will arrive even later because of that. So yeah, maybe at one point a Terran player is just watching these VODs, deciding to punish Miezekotze for a standard opening, or maybe not. We'll see to that during the rest of the season. At the meantime, we have the same opening from Grizzly as well. She just went into the barracks, produces a Reaper in order to scout some information, and then we have the command center right behind it, going into a second barracks, and then probably into a second gas right behind it. So in the meantime, Miezekotze just trying to get more map vision with the help of these overlords. Also sometimes something why some Terran players try to go or change it up a little bit by not producing an early Reaper, but instead going for early Marines, so that they can just anticipate where the overlords are normally headed to, so they can just try to intercept them and try to shoot them down in the early game, which already causes a Zerg player a lot of trouble. Not only the 100 resources you lose and then you just have to replace the overlord, but also the supply block that early in the game can cause you a lot of trouble. So Reaper unfortunately gets caught right away without even damaging a lot of these lings, so just damaging a lot of these lings. So did she already lose some? Yeah, there it is. Only one Terran unit lost, so the Reaper down already, without really getting all of the necessary information. Did she get some scouting information? Well, just the typical stuff, so she was probably seeing the spawning pool wiggle, knowing that there's Zergling speed, which is actually standard anyways, so it's not like that important of an information or that surprising. Of course, you would maybe get alarmed if a Zerg wouldn't go for the Zergling speed while having workers in gas, then of course you would get worried. So it still is some sort of necessary information. But yeah, I mean, you go in and like 99 out of 100 games, you're probably going to see that spawning pool wiggle. So not really that surprising. Miezekotze at the meantime just trying to get her links for more vision and passive scoutive information. So she already has some Zerglings in position to scout whether her opponent is going for a gold third base or a normal third base, if she goes for a third base at all, because it took her quite some time to do that in the last game. In the meantime, as I said before, we have the almost exact, what do I say by always? We have almost. We have the exact same build by Grizzly. So, waiting for yeah, mostly waiting for some tanks and some medevacs to arrive in order to do some push out. There's a mine already out here, so she has the possibility to yeah, deal with a quite larger amount of units. Actually a nice placement here by Grizzly, just covering that surface area over here, and the mine is probably even a little bit more difficult to discover. So you might even be inside the firing range. And there we have a Nidus Worm! Quite interesting play by Miezekotze over here. Unfortunately for Grizzly, oh, it's just barely inside. So if Grizzly is paying attention to the minimap, she should realize what's going on here. But there the Nidus Worm is already out. Most of her units are just outside the base, so she will just have to retreat everything towards her main base. And when she arrives there, a lot will already have gone down already. So, this is a lot of damage that Miezekotze is already pushing out here with the queens for help here. Even the medevacs are in danger already. And there's a lot of transfuses available for Miezekotze here. The roaches are also dealing quite a tremendous amount of damage, and they are pretty beefy, so they can actually tank a lot of marine shots here. Grizzly already losing a lot of workers, 23 already. Now the siege tank is finally out, and this is going to get cleared up. Quite convincingly now, but yeah, I mean, a lot of damage was dealt there by Miezekotze. Finally the Overlord goes down, as well as the Nidus Worm, but yeah, the damage has been dealt. Even the Creep Tormer now goes down, so Grizzly just dealing with that already. Yeah, but now she's down to 12 workers to the 37 of Miezekotze. Miezekotze just taking the third base. She knows she can do it right now. She's done a tremendous amount of damage. Of course, she has to be careful for she has to be careful if an immediate counter push was to come her way. Grizzly, please repair that starport. It's burning down. I think she doesn't realize. No, she does. Whew. Glad she did. So nothing really happened that way. Yeah, Miezekotze actually knows what the big problem might be, so she just sends some linked as out again for passive scouting. She really wants to know if a push is coming her way or not, so if she will be able to just drone up a little more, or if she really has to produce more units right now, which she actually doesn't want to do, but of course you have to do it. You have to know if your opponent is coming your way. Yeah, and now actually that was what I was talking about. She might not be able to hold that counter push as well as she wanted to. Probably going to lose that third base in the process, and that actually would help Grizzly by a great margin to come back into the game. Has to be careful not to be over eager here. She only has a small amount of units here, and they're pretty low in health. Just tries to do some more damage even, but actually I think, of course she has to do more damage. She's still down 20 workers, so there's a lot for her to do right now, but not losing these units is of the paramount importance here. And she's actually doing quite well. Still dealing some more damage. It's only unit damage she's dealing now, but still has delayed this third base over here a little bit. Has not lost her drop, which is actually the most important thing right now. She really needs every unit she has right now. And she actually has to push out very soon afterwards. That she has quite a fearsome army here. I mean, it's 2 siege tanks. We have a mine down here. We even have a few marines, plus the marines that are still in this medevac. And we even have a mine down here, plus another bunker. So of course she has to be worried about counter pushes, but I think she could quite easily deal with them by just leaving these marines behind and walling off this section of the map completely, and then just moving out. But I think moving out would be of the utmost importance for her right now. She really has to do something, while Miezekotze has to decide whether she wants to have more units or more drones. And I think that actually would have been the best point in time, the best window of opportunity to make something happen. But in the meantime, yeah, now Miezekotze just realizes she had Zerglings in position, so she knows that her opponent is crossing the map. But, of course, also this is dealing some sort of damage to her opponent, just making her make units, not drones. So she could actually, if she just realizes there's not much she can do, she could just load in and try to retreat. And again, it's very important that she deals a lot of damage, but not loses too much of this small little force, because if she loses this, the game will just be over. Since Miezekotze has already taken her third base right now, is trying to saturate it already, has already planted down her fourth hatch over here. So once this push is finally done and over, she will already have a 4th base over here. So it seems as if Grizzly might want to go for some sort of elevator play right into the main base, but Miezekotze already has some units ready. This is actually quite an odd scan. I don't really know what she wants to see there. Maybe she was hoping to see some tech. And it seems as if Miezekotze really wants to go, yeah, for some sort of counterattack. She's positive that she will be able to just clear this up with the units she has, while at the meantime dealing some damage at Grizzly's home. And it seems as if she's really successful with that. Nice load, nice unloading here by Grizzly, just putting the tanks right behind this wall and giving up some shots over there. So what happened to the Lynx? I actually don't know. Did this mine kill them all? Wow, 9 kills. Wow, this mine shot just was the miracle mine shot over here. Unfortunately, we didn't really see it. Yeah, now trying to take a 3rd base over here, just checking for it, but the Ling is just intercepting the worker, and now we just come in. Oh, again, nice little tank evac play there by Grizzly, but unfortunately she doesn't have any units left with the tanks, so she will still deal some more damage with that 1 tank over here. Oh, Miezekotze Miezekotze just here pulling some of these drones. She didn't really want to do that. Mistake, a little mistake happening over here. And still Grizzly trying to be as annoying as possible with his little tank play. It's actually her only aggressive units, and there's no anti-air. So of course Miezekotze does not really have anything to deal with that except for queens. But she opts not to pull them right now. She really wants to get these injects done. There they are, but a little bit late, because not everything, mostly everything is now covered with creep, so shouldn't be a real problem. But Miezekotze is still pretty far ahead. She has 4 bases down, while Grizzly has just cleared the position where she actually wants to take her 3rd base, but it's not even finished. There, it's being built at the moment. Yeah, and I mean, the problem is that Miezekotze already is in a very good position, and Grizzly is still suffering from the early attack. If we have a look at the worker count, it's 29 to 60. So, I mean, there's not much that Grizzly can do from that point in game. From that point on, she can't really play catch up economically, because Miezekotze is just so far ahead economically that that Grizzly, without any help, due to push, she won't be able to catch up at all. And the problem is that she can't really be aggressive as well, because Miezekotze just has the bigger army. She has a lot of mutas out, which will make dropping a lot more difficult than before. So it's problematic. I mean, you see that at that point in time, Grizzly actually needs to do some damage, actually a lot of damage, to Miezekotze's economy while building up her own economy, so that they will sort of even out later on in the game. But she has to do that while avoiding the rest of Miezekotze's army almost completely, because she can't really afford to lose units as well. So you actually see the problem in that situation, right? I mean, you actually have to do something to get your opponent hindered to get back into the game, but you really can't, because you just don't have the stuff in order to get it. But once you have the stuff that would allow you to push your opponent will just have overwhelming numbers of units, and probably even a better tech in upgrades, and maybe even in units, because Miezekotze just going into hive play, so she will be able to produce Ultralisks in a short amount of time. And yeah, since Grizzly is still trying to build an army that could deal with Miezekotze's army in the mid game, she's not even preparing, not even thinking of late game Zerg, because, like I said, she just doesn't have the resources for it. Yeah, so this is actually, either way, no, it doesn't really matter how you look at it, from what perspective. It's just a very, very problematic situation, completely. I mean, I think the best possibility for her right now would actually be that. Not trying to get out all this mid-game army, but just crossing fingers, hoping your opponent won't attack you, if you stay back, of course. I mean, you could either just do tremendous multitasking and trying to out-multitask your opponent, but that would be really problematic at that point in time. Or you could just try to blindly prepare for the late game, so that when your opponent finally gets to you with his late game army, or her late game army at that point, you would just have the counter army ready in order to get you back into the game. But yeah, again, it's easier said than done, and it's not really possible at that moment in time. Miezekotze just streaming across lings after lings. She knows that her opponent just doesn't have the army to survive that kind of push. And now all of the units are just streaming inside Grizzly's base. The third base gets overwhelmed, doesn't even lift it, at least lift her natural base, but that's just something that won't really help her at all once this push is over. At the moment she's just trying to secure herself from the Mutalisk attack, but the Mutas will just attack where the turrets aren't. And yeah, then at least, I mean, she will still have that narrow choke point into her main base. But what she's going to do... okay, still trying to get something done with the counter push over here. We'll probably get the fourth base, but the fifth base is almost up. All of Miezekotze's army is already retreating. Nice spreading here, but it's still just too few units. I mean, we have 2 links. It's at least 2-1 Marines, but there's also Banelings as well. GG, and Miezekotze takes the second game. It's the third map of the season. We're on Frost, and spawning to the bottom left we have Grizzly, who's down 0-2 and has to make something happen really bad. And to the bottom right, in purple, it's Miezekotze. Just sending her Overlord accidentally into the right direction. She doesn't really know where her opponent could be. Could be all 3 spawning positions, but it's quite usual to send your initial Overlord over to the horizontal base, and then the next one to the vertical base, while maybe scouting the cross position with the first few lings, or if you're really paranoid, maybe even with a drone. But yeah, on a map like that, you normally don't drone scout. It would take too much time anyways. If you're really afraid of any sort of proxies, you would just send a drone out to check for the typical proxy positions, like over here, or over here, or even a little more delayed back here. Or sometimes even people are just cheeky enough to hide them somewhere around here. But I think if you just walk... I think no, if you just walk here, I think you don't walk past the watchtower, so you won't really see if proxy barracks is like being built over here. Also, this is sometimes a location where you also like to build your proxy barracks or proxy buildings, whatever. And yeah, normally around or somewhere around here is a very good location. So if you're really paranoid of that, you would just send out a drone in order to get the information over there. So it seems as if Grizzly doesn't really want to change up her build at all. I think she feels pretty comfortable with this build, although it didn't really work out the first few times, but still it doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes if you're not like the highest caliber player, you just have your one bread and butter build, and you like doing it. You know exactly what it is about, and you don't really want to improvise against an opponent you know is actually a bit better than you. So you just do what you can best and hope for the best. So I think that's a very wise decision by Grizzly here. Although of course it makes it a little bit predictable, but still, I mean, better being predictable than just doing weird builds you've never done before and you have no experience with, and you will just screw up everything with timings and construction and everything, so that's not really worth it. So Miezekotze already taking an early third base. Well, not actually early, it's just right standard around the 3-minute mark is when Zergs normally take their third base, if of course they don't see some sort of one base push coming their way. So in the meantime, just trying to get away with that Overlord, and she probably will get away. I think that's a high ground position. No, it's not really, but yeah, still too far away. So Grizzly could maybe try to get the Overlord by sending her Marines over here, but I don't really know if you can actually get that close. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Doesn't really matter though, because Grizzly does not even bother to try. So in the meantime, Miezekotze is just sending her Overlord towards the left half of the map. She already knows where her opponent is, so no need to check this base with the Overlord. You can make better use of it. So, yes, going right into starboard once more. While Miezekotze is now transitioning into lair. Trying to get vision with the help of the watchtower, but Miezekotze has foreseen that and has already positioned 2 Zerglings over here, not only 1, so that she will be able to drive single units away or even just kill them completely if they weren't as quick as a Reaper. Again, the typical Miezekotze play, so Miezekotze always ahead of her scouting, always on top of her scouting. She already sends a lot of her units out in order to get better map presence and map vision, which is of course again the bread and butter for Zerg. You always want to know when your opponent comes your way so that you will have some time to react, maybe even build some more units if you have some lava left. Of course, sometimes you really hit these kind of anti-timings, which are very unfortunate for Zerg. If you just produced a lot of drones with the help of your lava, and then suddenly one of your scouting units show you that a push is heading your way, and yeah, then the cursing begins. There's not really much you can do then. If you just try to play as greedy as possible, of course, and you don't have a lot of units available protectively, so yeah, that could be a bit problematic. So actually nice route that the medevacs took over there. So Miezekotze only now realizes that something is headed her way, but she's already some Lings and Banelings in position, also some Lings over here. Queen's already heading towards the edge of the creep, so that they will be able to shoot down these medevacs if necessary. Grizzly at least takes the best damage he can get by taking down that Overlord. That's always something, I mean, always a good thing to do. If you can't really get the damage done you wanted to deal, don't try to overcommit, that's the very important part, but just try to do as much damage as possible, and that was only that Overlord. I mean, it's not much, but at least it's something. And you didn't lose your drop for nothing, or just trying to make more damage that you could actually do. So still, Grizzly not really looking that well, 26 more Lings in production, so Miezekotze is already ready to push across the map. She hasn't really saturated her third base over here, is probably going to do that behind it. Some more drones coming in. So again, trying to do a little drop over here, maybe getting a Ling. I think she might have had some Banelings explode into 1 or 2 Marines. That of course would have been a worthwhile trade. So still trying to get more tanky vacs over across the map, and maybe again this is the unfortunate anti-timing for her. She's just moving across the map, probably not even paying attention towards her units right now, because she's just preoccupied with something else somewhere else in her base, and now just losing most of her reinforcement army to just Lings, yeah. This path is open. I actually don't know why there's no depot over here. I mean, this is actually, why is this depot down here and not over here? This is a bit this is really unfortunate for her again. Like I said, again, a little bit of an anti-timing. If she hadn't moved out but had more of these siege tanks in position already, she might still be able to kind of clear this without losing too much. I mean, it's already 14 SCVs down. Now the SCVs are even just going through all of the depots, but there's enough Marines back here to defend this even without the supply depots. Yeah, has to counter repair this building immediately. But I mean, it's still, it was a lot of damage done. We had 14 workers dying. Miezekotze is on 3 bases, and like I said before, she hadn't saturated it before the push, but while the push was going on, she just saturated the rest of the minerals and even took the gases. Now even building another macro hatchery. I actually think she could even try to take it over here, but she doesn't really want to risk it. I think in her position I would have tried to take the 4th base over here. But and now she does, even with the 5th base, she just has some minerals left to spare because she didn't really lose all too much while doing a lot of damage in the meantime. And yeah, even ahead in upgrades with the 1 melee attack upgrade down here. And Grizzly again down to half of the supply of Miezekotze, and from now on, I mean, what can you do? It's the same as we've seen. Well, it's the same thing we saw in game 2, where Grizzly just lost so much in the early or mid game that at some point it doesn't really matter what else you try to do. Like I said before, I mean, with just magnificent multitasking at several angles, which she actually can't really do because she doesn't even have enough medivacs from here on. She might be able to pull something off, just pinning her opponent back by dropping at multiple locations from multiple angles. But like I said before, I mean, I guess I lose. It's GG, and Miezekotze takes the game 3-0.